Welcome to the Route Less Ran. Batman Arkham Asylum debuted in August 25, 2009, and tells the story of one night where Joker takes over Arkham and Batman must stop him. It very quickly took the gaming world by storm. Between the attention to detail, the fun and flowing combat sequences, the challenging stealth segments, and the amount of lore and fan service in the game was very quickly declared the best Batman game ever, the best licensed game ever, and possibly the best game ever. In most video games, the object of the speedrun is to get to the credits as quickly as possible, through glitches, exploits, or well-figured-out routes. In some cases, you don't even need to beat the final boss. That doesn't work for Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum is built on the Unreal Engine, specifically the Unreal Chapter system. For these games, in order to progress quickly, you must convince the game you have completed each chapter. A good example of the Batman chapter system is to look at the statue of Quincy Sharp. A variety of things happen to it throughout the game, changing with each chapter. What this means for Arkham Asylum is that speedrunning has an uphill battle. On September 7, 2009, Mass8705 posted in Speed Demo's archive, asking for the first real speedrun of the game and asking for some places where other users thought the game could be optimized or played in a more efficient manner. In the following comments, there were questions about whether or not to go for the Riddler side quest, which would take time but would give experience that would lead to useful upgrades, what upgrades to do first, and discussing how to tackle some of the more obvious gameplay bottlenecks. The first breakthrough is by The Void, who knows it is possible to skip the final mandatory non-boss combat sequence. In the game, to beat these sequences, Batman must get close to the cryptograph boxes. Void, on September 8th, notes that they believe that as the cryptograph and the door that Batman enters are on a direct eye line, if Batman moves quickly without alerting the thugs, he could disable the pumps and leave without fighting anyone. Also on the 8th, Mass8705 notes he did an initial run. He does not have a specific time, but notes is about 5 or 6 hours. In it, he identifies as upgrading to the triple batarang as the best idea, as between that and the quick batarang you can knock down 4 enemies quickly. Schrippler discusses his own run on the 9th. He finished the game in 3 hours, though he did not record this run, and he notes specifically some quick times on the Croc section and easy ways to beat skeletons in Scarecrow's section. This eventually evolves into the idea to use detonation to knock out groups of enemies quickly and can be used at any point in the run after getting the detonator. As you get the detonator almost immediately after the tutorial, it quickly turns invaluable, even more so for later runners. January 22, 2010, Rudy06 claims to have beaten the game in under 3 hours. This is usurped the next day with Master Zed claiming a 2-hour 10-minute run. Unfortunately, I don't have any live links to the run, but most of the notes are just about an optimized run. The people on SDA figured that in most cases, if you know what the end goal is, you can try to finish that first and move on. For example, you can head straight to the Killer Croc fight instead of detouring to talk to Aaron Cash. July 2, 2010, SDA uploads a playlist that does a Master Zed run. The game has moved on a bit since 2009, but not by much. By now they have figured out that if you lose the first Titan fight, it's quicker than winning it. But other than that, there is nothing beyond just playing the game well. This changed with the first major skip discovery in 2013. UC Diablok, also called Diablo, figured out that November that if you throw a remote-controlled batarang at the bell in the mansion, it falls. Once it falls, you can take the door and walk merrily into the Zaz 2 section. No library predator sequence, no Scarecrow 2 where you turn into a child, no battling with multiple people in the main hall. Remember that thing about the chapters? Yeah, that's in play here. All this does is convince the game you are getting to the end of the chapter sooner. At this point, people are still finding minor skiffs, but linking to Twitch clips that have since been deleted. They do not go into any detail, so all I can say is people were finding ways to skip or speed up a few fights, like Garden's second Predator room and Harley Quinn's fights. Talking with Honorable J, who is still active, also leads to some discussion of what was going on then. Skipping Ivy was via a checkpoint restart after getting the line launcher. Once you got it and left the room, if you headed for the exit instead of meeting Ivy, you would get a note about how you need to meet her. Reloading the room then confused the game, causing you to be able to leave. Predator Skip took advantage of how you can move on in rooms if no one has noticed you. May 4th, 2014, Diablo possibly discovers another skip, a Scarecrow 3 skip. If you can get to the Batcave before Intensement Treatment 2, you can skip to Croc. The problem is getting past Ivy's vines. Later, a skip is discovered that is much easier to pull off and works every time. I don't know when this was discovered, but it was active in a 2015 run I watched. When you leave the Batcave, instead of continuing along as directed in the aqueduct, turn around and go through a door lower in the aqueducts. This puts you out in the sewer just past where the Scarecrow 3 section ends. The game thinks you beat it and you can continue to Croc's Lair. Diablo also finds the broom skip. May 13th, 2014, Honorable J finds the Boyle Whiskey skip. The short version is, it's possible to trigger Boyle's Whiskey scan before the second fight, which means you can skip some conversations if you move quickly enough. In 2015, the next major breakthrough happens. Akion posts on SDA that he has discovered an easy way to do zips. I'll link to a longer description, but the short version is, if you can go into a corner cover, use the batarang and detonate at the same time, leave corner cover, then throw a batarang, the game will zip you to another area, which cuts the fights down immensely. This was shown off at this year's 2018 Awesome Games Done Quick. Between 2015 and 2018, the main thing that happened was zips improved immensely. They require some exact placement, but by thorough experimentation, people found out where each zip went. Then recently, a few major things have happened. First is the Botanical Gardens skip. By going out of bounds via zips when you get back to the gardens, you can skip to just before the Ivy boss fight, cutting out several minutes of the route. The second is sewer skip. Also by zipping out of bounds, but with some finagling, you skip everything involving turning the poison off and instead clip inside the tunnel to go to the surface. You still need to beat Ivy, but you cut out several long fights. Finally, the broom skip just became viable. Just outside of Joker's cell there is a broom. By using it, you can clip into the cell. Due to the chapter system, even if you manage to get it to work, as the skip is very luck-based and finicky, the final boss is not loaded. And in the case that the final boss is loaded, you cannot trigger the credits once he is beaten, except if you use it during the speech that the final boss gives. Unfortunately, it's still a bit too finicky to really count on it. From the time the run started till now, we have only really dropped the record by about 50 minutes, leaving it at a current 1 hour and 14 minutes. Due to the chapter system, there are a few major bottlenecks in a run. Mostly the 8-minute walk at the beginning where you can't do anything, the tutorial where you can't do zips, and still needing to fight Poison Ivy once you get the Ultra Bat Claw. While you need the Ultra Bat Claw to beat the final boss, the chapter system won't load the final chapter until you beat Ivy. But the runners I talked to mentioned they wanted to take it down under an hour. And with the continued search for skips and ways to manipulate the game, I think they can do it.
How are you doing this? You've ingested enough toxins to drive dead men insane. What are you?
He's Batman!
You'll have to deactivate her giant attack robot. No, really, Sly, I'm serious. The Contessa has a giant attack robot. It just looks like a water tower.